In the land of the rising sun, a new organization is rising to power, overshadowing the Yakuza, who are now suffocating under the pressure of Japan's justice system. The streets of Tokyo have become filled with a new kind of criminals. Anonymous, without a code, honor, or obligations. Unlike the Yakuza, they have no structure, no rules, only a verbal agreement to work together until the money from their next robbery, scam, or something far worse is secured. Who are these people? How does an organized organization even function? And how did they manage to ascend to the throne of Japan's criminal underworld? Well then, let's begin with the more metaphorical side of things. A double-edged sword does not hesitate to spill the blood of both its enemy and its own wielder. The Yakuza became what we know today in the 16th and 17th centuries, but their true rise came during the 80s and 90s of the last century, when Japan's economy was at its peak. The fortunes were made, and so began the golden age for traditional tattoos and the underworld's principles. Tattoos were, and still are, a defining feature of the Yakuza. Every member was required to bear them, symbols of strength, wisdom, loyalty, or personal stories. The organization itself was built on a strict hierarchy and piety, rooted deeply in Japanese tradition, which is exactly why foreigners were never allowed in. Disobeying an order or disgracing one's clan meant one had to prove their loyalty by cutting off a finger joint. The clan leader embodied absolute authority and commanded total respect. To insult him was to earn an immediate invitation to witness the beauty of the depths of the Japanese sea. The Yakuza made their living through racketeering, the sale of illegal substances, prostitution, robbery, and so much more. Yet they were systematic, and in its own way they brought order to Japan's criminal underworld. If there were any threats to those under their protection, they acted quickly. If new players appeared on their criminal field, the Yakuza swiftly eliminated them. Whether it was Korean or Chinese crime groups, Japan's seemingly uncontrollable youth, or simple thugs, none could withstand the Yakuza's grip. In territories under their control, order prevailed. Anyone who dared to pose as competition, selling other goods, or in any way spreading chaos within their domains, quickly met their end, becoming food for worms. But tell me, dear viewer, was there anyone thankful for the so-called order? Business owners beaten for refusing to pay, people whose sons died from Yakuza's drugs, people whose daughters were forced into prostitution? Certainly not. The Japanese people had grown tired of the threat of the Yakuza, and the explosion of Japan's economy in 1991 only added fuel to the Yakuza's fire. Thus, by the late 90s, a full-scale campaign to eradicate the Yakuza had begun. It was an astonishing success. Previously, their numbers had exceeded 180,000 members. By 2024, only 18,000 remained. The Yakuza could no longer open bank accounts, register phone numbers, or collect protection payments. Individuals who cooperated with the gangsters lost their jobs, and affiliated companies faced crushing fines and devastating blows to their reputations. Arrests happened all over the country. The Japanese people, tired of facing crime at their doorstep, decided to root out the problem completely. And so, The Yakuza's influence fell to unprecedented lows, freeing people from much of their oppression. But what about our metaphoric sword? It's gone now, and with it, the last remaining shield against both old and new dangers. The old order collapsed. One by one, the Yakuza clans began to fall, creating a power vacuum that drew in the Chinese, the Koreans, and gave rise to a new generation of Japanese criminals, eager to prove themselves. At the same time, countless migrants from the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and the Middle East decided to test their skills in the land of possibilities as well. And Japanese youth who had just stepped into the world of crime no longer wanted to join the Yakuza. They saw the Yakuza as nothing more than a corpse of a beast, from which scavengers were eager to tear off a piece. And when everyone started acting like they owned the streets, a widespread crime became only a matter of time. For the rest of the world, Japan is considered a bastion of safety. Yet the streets of Japanese society have undoubtedly grown more restless since most of the Yakuza were forced out of the underworld business. The level of criminal activity has multiplied many times over. The fight for territory has reignited, though at first glance it might not seem that way. The Japanese authorities managed to deal with the Yakuza, but they failed to deal with the price of their absence. The Yakuza were no saints, but their iron grip kept the streets quiet. Petty crime would melt away, never allowed to gather into one massive snowball of problems, like under the rays of cold winter's sun. Yet each star strives to outshine the setting sun. Their battle is relentless, their methods brutal, but in the end, one star outshined all the others, and its name is Tokuryo. It was the Japanese authorities who first gave them a name, something to describe a multitude of loosely connected groups of Japanese criminals. Tokuryo is not a criminal organization in the traditional sense. Rather, it is a network of decentralized groups. The roles within these groups are divided as follows. Organizers, the brains behind each operation. They control every plan and scheme. Recruiters, they find the executors for their dirty work and lure them in with sweet promises of easy money and easy gigs. Executors, or more accurately, expendable material for those above them. As their title suggests, they do all the heavy lifting. This pecking order worked out. Crime in Japan has been on the rise in recent years. Let us consider statistics. For 2023, over 700,000 crimes were recorded, and the number continues to rise. Fraud, robbery, theft, and extortion. Tokuryo's four horsemen spread far and wide. Even divided offline, these partners in crime find one another in the depths of darknet, arranging to carry out operations together. Naturally, everything happens with total anonymity, to such a degree that until the end of the operation, participants might never even learn the name or gender of the person who hired them. Yet, it's not uncommon for scammers to be scammed themselves, when, at the end of a gig, the former partners betray one another and vanish. Tokuryo has no honor, no code, and no loyalty to any single group. They bear no distinctive tattoos like their tradition-bound predecessors, only anonymity and greed as their unifying marks. The internet is their battlefield, the arena where their schemes unfold. Instead of physical crimes, they specialize in offenses across the vast expanse of the digital world: fraudulent calls, database hacking, pyramid schemes, cryptocurrency scams, etc. But that doesn't mean that they refrain from dealing in illegal substances, engaging in extortion or broad daylight theft. It's simply that in our marvelous age of information, far greater profit can be found not in the physical world, but in the digital one. And besides, it's much easier to hide from international law enforcement there. This way of thinking was realized not only by Japan's youth, but also by a number of seasoned gangsters from among the former Yakuza. With particular enthusiasm, they took on the role of mentors and criminal organizers, gathering the new generation around themselves, a sort of passing of the torch, of course for a handsome fee. The group size varies greatly, from just 3 people to 100 and more. With the experience of seasoned gangsters and the ambition of Japan's fiery youth, it's difficult for other criminal organizations, Korean, Chinese or otherwise, to compete with them on their own turf. Thus, Tokuryu are gradually pushing out both the remaining Yakuza clans and the immigrant gangs from Japanese soil. Though they don't establish offices like the Yakuza once did, and don't own territories in the literal sense, they instead possess and actively expand spheres of influence, invisible yet ever-expanding realms of control. To you, dear viewer, it may seem that these Tokuryu are not as frightening as they appear at first glance. Their crimes might seem less life-threatening than the old-time dealings of the Yakuza in their glory days. But tell me, dear viewer, who is more dangerous to you? A criminal with principles or one without them? A criminal who is easy to find or one who is always in the shadows? Predictability or chaos? For centuries, one organization thrived on racketeering, organized prostitution, smuggling, murder, and intimidation, all under a strict hierarchy and tradition, faithful to the past. The other group, however, looks toward the future, taking full advantage of new criminal opportunities: fraud, theft, robbery, and blackmail. The same crimes as before, just moved to the net. Tokuryu operates freely from the shallow waters of the surface web, search engines, social media, to the depths of the dark web, with its marketplaces for illegal drugs, weapons, and people. They have no rules, no obligations, and often not even a plan. And Japanese crime has changed its face and methods after the purge, but never disappearing. And it seems that in the coming years it will only reach the peak of its activity. All thanks to this new branch in the evolution of Japan's criminal underworld. Their anonymity is absolute, and their plan of action is scattered like dice across a game board. That's what defines them. Here it is, the new generation of Japanese crime. Here it is, Tokuryu. So, how can authorities catch such criminals? For decades, Japanese police knew exactly where to find the Yakuza. Their offices were marked with signs, and their leaders were almost public figures. But how do you fight criminals who have no office, no face, and no name? The police were unprepared for such a drastic change in the rules of the game. When all your old methods fail to strike a new threat, only one option remains: to become better. The Japanese authorities are fully aware of the danger looming over them, Entire new divisions have been created to challenge criminals operating in the depths of the World Wide Web. Artificial intelligence has been brought into the fight, and cooperation with Interpol has been strengthened. They also actively pursue the so-called executors, whose traces are easier to track due to their physical activity. That's why they're considered expendable material. Yet Tokuryu continues to stay one move ahead, eluding every attempt to stop them, like water running through fingers of the law. Well, the Yakuza too once felt like a permanent part of fabric of Japanese society. And yet, where are they now? Progress never stops, and though Tokuryu may feel untouchable today, sooner or later the hand of justice will tighten around their necks. After all, progress applies to the police as well. A well-known case is that of the so-called Luffy, who managed his criminal operations straight from a Philippine prison. He orchestrated a series of brutal home ransackings, during which victims were violently beaten. In total, around 50 such attacks were carried out under his command. He believed that, from behind the bars of Philippine jail, he was untouchable. But then, one day, Japanese authorities came knocking on the bars of his cell. Luffy was brought back to Japan and sentenced to 20 years in prison for organizing and recruiting executors for his illegal operations. It was one of the most high-profile examples of Tokuryu in action, but certainly not the last. In this video, we've seen the story of the Yakuza, how they once gained immense influence within Japanese society, only to fall beneath the weight of Japanese authorities. We've also witnessed the rise of Tokuryu, now standing at their peak, while the authorities remain too inexperienced to fully counter their modern methods. Tokuryu has proven that in the age of technology, victory belongs not to those bound by oaths and tradition, but to those freed from its rules. They are unpredictable, ruthless, elusive, and endlessly hungry for money. And the question remains, when will Japanese law enforcement develop effective measures to stop criminal operations? When the gears of the progress will make another round. And as this story shows, it always does. As for you and me, dear viewer, our input is limited. But we must also remember, criminals without principles aren't unique to Japan. The world is full of them. So always stay alert, protect yourself and those close to you. And if that's not enough, if you want to learn more about the fascinating, chilling, and horrifying crimes of East Asia, then show your support by leaving a comment, a like, and a subscription. Do that, and the next video won't take long. Stay safe.